Today, I watched the reports from Washington in horror. I couldn't focus on anything else. As an American by birth and by citizenship, I'm outraged at the violation of national norms and what should be inviolate, sacred ground of American democracy. For Americans to attack Congress should be impossible. And as a Jew, I'm frightened. Events like these generally involve danger for Jews. We know quite well what happens when people like this become frustrated. Many of them find a synagogue, an identifiably Jewish business. They smash windows, they spray paint swastikas, they steal property, and frankly, worse if they can find a human being to abuse. But after that outrage and after that fear, I feel anger at 12 years of government that I feel produced this. In at least 3 places in Tanach, in Scripture, we are told about empty people. Agitated people. Shoftim, Judges, chapter 9, sentence 4. Avimelech hired empty, agitated men. Same book of Judges, chapter 11, sentence 3. And empty men gathered to Yiftach. And then in Divrei Hayamim Bet, Chronicles 2, chapter 13, sentence 7. And empty, worthless men gathered to Yeravam ben Nevat. In each case, these men were led to horrific, violent actions. Avimelech had his band kill his half-brothers so that he could rule unchallenged. Yiftach's men formed a gang and attacked travelers. And Yeravam's men were the nucleus around which he created a rebellion that resulted in the northern tribes of Israel seceding from the nation of Israel. These, the agitated, empty men, were the disenfranchised, the underprivileged. They felt the deck was stacked against them and that others were trying to abuse and cheat them. Some of them were overstressed by poverty and family tension. Some of them suffer from physical or mental illnesses. They exist in every country, and they're vulnerable. Look at the pictures from the Capitol. Did you see the people wearing Viking costumes, carrying Captain America-style shields, wearing camouflage gear as though they were soldiers? The disenfranchised respond to motivation. Whether by a government that legislates against them, because these people are the unattractive, the unhip minority, or by a government that panders to them, promising them that they will inherit the earth. Avimelech can pay them. Yiftach, himself an outcast, can say, I'm like you. Yeravam, himself a servant, can rally them. I've thought a lot about these agitated, empty gangs in the past 12 years. Because the government of the United States has done a great deal in that time to solidify, to outrage, and to encourage disenfranchised people in dangerous directions. What happens when you tell people that their values and their jobs are on the wrong side of history? What happens when you call people a basket of deplorables? What happens when you tell people that their every political defeat is a result of somebody cheating? What happens when you spread myths about how the other side are guilty of unspeakable crimes? I don't in any way absolve today's rioters of guilt. Those who desecrated my capital, our capital, must be charged and tried. But today's riot, and a lot of what has happened in the past year of violent protests, should be understood for what it is. People who are empty, people who are agitated, people who are riled up on one side by those who insult them, and on the other side by those who promise them the world. These people are very real. They're in every society. They were here in biblical times, and they're here today. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way. Because there's a 4th example in Tanach. The supporters of David HaMelech, of King David. Shmuel Aleph, Samuel 1, chapter 22, sentence 2, and all of the troubled men, all of the debtors, all the bitter people gathered to King David. When King David was a fugitive from King Saul, people who were beset by troubles, people who were in debt, people who were bitter, rallied around him. But they did not become bandits. They did not execute his political tormentor, King Saul, even when they had the opportunity. Instead, in the very next chapter, they became a positive fighting force, rallying behind King David to defend the Jews against those who had attacked them. When King David says, don't attack King Saul, they listen. Why? Why didn't they raid and plunder property? there's a difference between David's men and the other ones we referenced. The other ones, the ones who gathered to Avimelech, to Yiftach, to Yeravam, were described as reikim. They were empty. They were filled only with anger and resentment, hollow and hollowing emotions. David filled his supporters with the words of the prophets whose words he heeded, Natan and Gad. David inspired his band not by reinforcing their anger and their agitation, but rather by summoning them to higher values. David didn't neglect these men. He didn't say to them, you're on the wrong side, go away. Rather, he showed he valued them. He brought them onto his team. And that's what I believe we need in the United States of America and beyond. A breed of government which does not use its majority to ride roughshod over the agitated minority in the name of instituting change. A breed of government which doesn't pander to that agitated minority and promise them everything in exchange for their cannon fodder loyalty. A breed of government that understands that legislation that empowers one group must also honor others. A breed of government that realizes that control of the executive and legislative branches is a mandate to embrace the minority, to work with them, not to ride roughshod over them. A breed of government that looks to inspire all. May God inspire our leaders to embrace and support the agitated and disenfranchised in a positive way, in a constructive way, to bring them along as they build society in America and beyond, to create the more perfect union we are meant to achieve. God protect us all, and God bless America.